Welcome back to Doom Eternal. We've destroyed the Super Gore nest because it was hindering our progress for some reason. I forget what exactly.
We don't need to know the
We have
reason. All we need to know is that it's in Doom Guy's way.
yes.
Pretty much.
So we have more Sentinel batteries, so we'll be unlocking more stuff in our Fortress of Doom.
Oh, so we're finding the robot asshole from from Doom 2016. Now,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't he, try to kill us at the end of that game and stuff?
Well,
No.
no, he didn't try to kill us. He just took our magic glowy sword thing.
Yeah, so he specifically doesn't want to kill you. He just sent you away for reasons we'll maybe see later.
Yeah, they kind of weirdly complicate Samuel Hayden with other plot stuff in this game, which makes what he did in the last game kind of confusing.
Well, from what I can tell, he was trying to make the energy thing because that would help the planet, right? And
It was basically unlimited. It was basically free energy, yes.
yes, and things went south because of who's its face, Olivia, whatever her name
Yes.
was, and the demons
So-
got loose, and so he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to hit the nuclear button, which is unleash the Doom guy.
In case of demons break glass, yes.
Yeah, pretty
Yes.
much.
And then, because Doom Guy wanted to blow up everything, which would include the energy supply, I thought that he just, kicked Doom Guy back into the closet and was just like, okay, I can handle it from here.
I mean,
That.
That's
you're sorta
essentially
right.
what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's basically true, but there is a bit more to it.
Okay.
And this game kind of weirdly complicates Samuel Hayden in a way that doesn't make complete sense.
I think that what they do with Samuel later on is pretty freaking cool, but it does kind of what's the word? Get in the way of what he did in the first game.
Yeah, it makes his actions in 2016 feel really counterproductive to what he was actually trying to do in
Yeah.
this game.
Good old hallmarks of the make it up as you go along style of writing.
I mean, yeah, basically.
I don't necessarily, criticize that writing mindset in general. I feel like it works better in a book, though. Because you can just very easily go back and rewrite parts of the book that don't quite mesh with the new idea. And in fact, you probably are going to do that in the drafting process. But you get less plot per hour in a game than you would in a book. So you wind up using fewer of your ideas per game, and that gives them more chances to change between games than they would.
It also helps,
Oh.
just due to the medium, you get more organic places for character growth and for their motivations to change
Well,
effectively,
yeah,
especially in a game like this.
but
you know.
I'm just talking about the writing process, the drafting process, and the structural things that lead to problems you wouldn't necessarily have in other mediums. Not the strengths of the medium and the weaknesses of the medium, but just the way the writing process works because of the structure of the thing.
Yeah, I forget which Uncharted was. I think it was 3, maybe? It was one of the Uncharted games where the plot was written on whatever levels they already had planned or were
That
making.
too. That was 3, yeah. They came up with the levels before they came up with the scenarios for the levels, and that led to
I mean,
characters acting really inconsistent sometimes.
to some extent, that happens in Hollywood now too, where they are, especially for huge franchise movies that happen now, they are making effects before the script is done because that's the only way you can get them out in time. So the writers do have to okay, we have this scene going on where there's a thunderstorm, so they have to write a thunderstorm into the plot no matter what, effectively. Because otherwise, then the action scene doesn't make sense. But to me, it sounds a little bit more extreme in the Uncharted 3 scenario. You're explaining where it's just
in the Uncharted 3 scenario, they just did things in an order that was counterintuitive. They had a bunch of ideas for levels and gameplay scenarios that they wanted to include in the game, and they came up with those ideas before writing anything for them, and then they had to write the story around those ideas. So that's why you get stuff like, for some reason, this guy who's written as being a complete and total badass for most of the game suddenly runs from you in this one other sequence, because they wanted to have a chase sequence, but they didn't come up with that chase sequence with any idea of who you would be chasing. They just wanted you to chase someone through a specific environment, and it wound up being Talbot in the end for some reason.
Oh, thank Christ. So sorry. I didn't play much of Doom 2016. I think I maybe played half of it. But I hated these assholes, and the fact that you can shoot off their rockets is... Like, that makes me very happy.
I mean, that's one of the
That's a
challenges in
godsend.
this level.
Being able to shoot weapons and limbs off of enemies is such a satisfying thing in a shooter. Not even just skill-based shooters either, although that's definitely a thing that I do enjoy. But RPGs as well. One of the coolest things that you can do in Fallout is target specific body parts through the freeze time. Every target has a percentage of being hit. VATS system. And one of the things you can do is shoot the gun out of an enemy's hand. It's really fun.
That first appeared in 3, right?
3, yeah, although
Okay.
not exactly the best game in the world. Still,
Because
good
I know
in
that
its way.
most people... I know that the general opinion among enfranchised Fallout people is that out of the new ones, New Vegas is the best.
It
Yeah, I hear
depends
that too.
on it depends on which game they started with, really. If they there are a lot of people who started Fallout with 3, and they think that, by and large, they think Fallout 3 is fine. Maybe it's got some rough edges in its design, but it's fine. But a lot of the people who started with Fallouts 1 and 2 went into Fallout 3 and found it lacking a lot of the strengths that those older games had, and that's why they prefer New Vegas, because it brings a lot of that back. But Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 are, they're good games, but they're good Bethesda games. They don't really
Yeah.
do the same kind of RPG thing that the older Fallouts did.
I like how you say they're good Bethesda games as if we all acknowledge that they're graded on a different scale.
Well,
than
yeah,
other.
I mean that in the sense of, like, here's a good Metroid game, and here's a good game that just happens to have Samus Aran in it, but isn't structured like a Metroid game. Like Federation Force, maybe.
Yeah, Samus is technically in that game. She's there for like
Technically.
she's there for like 5 minutes, but she is in the game.
So it's like you describe things that way because there are certain things about a particular series or a particular developer's style that you look for in their games, and you might acknowledge that not everyone is looking for that particular kind of game, so their standards for grading these games would be different. So that's why you'd say this is a good Sonic game because it does the things Sonic games are supposed to do really well. Or this is a good Crash Bandicoot game because it does the hallway platforming really nice. It's kind of like why I say Castlevania Lords of Shadow is a really good God of War game. Because it does God of War gameplay well.
Question: how are you switching between weapons in this game? Because I remember there was like the wheel thingy.
You have
First
the
one?
wheel, and then if you just tap it, you switch between your current weapon and the last one you used.
Oh, okay.
I like that style, by the way. For the longest goddamn time, this is another thing Doom 2016 is lauded for bringing back. For the longest goddamn time, shooters got it in their head that for realism purposes, really it was just for button economy, you can only have 2 weapons at a given time. This infected a lot of first-person shooters. It also got its hooks in the Tomb Raider series for a little while there.
You can blame Halo for that, really.
Yeah, the 2-weapon system. It was basically just there because, unlike with a PC shooter, you don't have a keyboard with a bunch of number keys that you can tap to instantly switch weapons. But
I mean, it is also a little bit more intuitive as well, because even on a keyboard, unless if you're really enfranchised in this game, you're like, okay, shotgun, that's the 4, press.
well, that's
you know.
well, yeah. If you're switching weapons in the middle of a combat situation, it can get hectic. But at least you always had the option, when the combat slowed down, to just take a moment, think, and realize, hey, you know what? I think the shotgun would be more useful than the assault rifle here. And you could have both of them with you and still have the pistol.
Yeah.
You know, in this game, you have the weapon wheel, so you have your entire weapon lineup with you at all times, but you also have the quick swap button between 2 different weapons. So you've got the best of both worlds there.
I want to say that the quick swap between 2 weapons thing was, I want to say started, but at least popularized by the first Half-Life, because that was a pretty big deal when that first came out.
Maybe. I will say
It's
that
Like,
So-
it might have been done by other games, but I can't remember what it.
I will say that for a
might have done that.
for a game in the style of Half-Life, it does make sense to be scavenging weapons all the time because of that dark,
Yeah.
foreboding, horror-like atmosphere, you know.
Yeah.
But for something
This
like
is-
Wolfenstein or Doom, I don't like it.
So.
Oh no,
this
I
is-
was meaning like well, Half-Life, you get to keep all your weapons, but it had the quick weapon switch,
Oh, okay.
like switch between the last 2 weapons you used.
So this is just me not knowing a lot about Half-Life, but a lot of the times I forget that it's supposed to be like a shooter in many
Yeah.
cases, which I know sounds silly because it's first person and there's guns, so it's like, duh, of course it's a shooter.
Right.
But whenever I think about Half-Life, I don't really think about those sorts of things. I think about
No, that's fair.
the cutscenes, memes, and also stuff like the physics puzzles and Gravity Gun. And I think that might just be my knowledge of Portal kind of going into Half-Life and kind of cross-contaminating, because Portal is like very
mean-
Half-Life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the first game ran on the same engine that Half-Life 2 was made on.
Yeah, it's
and they're in the same universe technically. Very similar
I
aesthetics.
get you, because you do spend a lot of time doing stuff like that and not necessarily shooting things in Half-Life. It's a very atmospheric kind of game in that
Yeah.
sense. The one thing that I will say is that I've only ever played Half-Life 2. So if I comment about Half-Life and it doesn't seem to line up with Half-Life 1, it's because I could never get the goddamn thing to run on my PC. I'm sorry.
No, that's fair.
Every time I've tried, it just doesn't want to do the thing.
I don't tend to hear people talk about the original Half-Life too much.
It's a lot more niche compared to the second game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got its fans. There's like a remaster, remakester fan
That-
project in the
That
works
fan is me. Sorry.
where they're like sprucing up the graphics and all.
Yeah,
Or-
they a small team. It's technically a fan game, but Valve let them publish it on Steam.
that's cool.
They completely remade the first game in the second game's engine, but like from the ground up. Like it's a full-on remake where contexts are changed. There's new puzzles to accommodate for the newer engine, etc.
Oh,
etc.
that's cool.
Yeah, it is, in my opinion, the definitive way to play Half-Life 1, if you're ever interested in playing it. It's called Black Mesa.
Yeah. The unfortunate
it's really
thing,
good.
though, is I'm aware of that, but I want to play the first one first. I want to play the original first. I can't get it to
that
run
is
on my
fair.
PC. It won't do the thing.
Do you have it? Do you have it on Steam?
I had it at one point, but it wouldn't work, so I refunded it.
Because I know they did update the Half-Life, or the original Half-Life 1 to work on modern PCs, because that was a problem a while back. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well then, I guess I'll do that.
it is a decent game. It's a lot more how would I put it, like retro shootery than Half-Life 2. Like, you don't have a sprint meter, you can quick swap between weapons and all that. It feels more like Quake with a story rather than Half-Life 2's more story focused.
I mean, that's kind of how it started, really.
Yeah,
Wasn't it
yeah.
basically on
Well, I
the
mean,
same
it
engine
was
or
running
not?
off of. Wait, what'd you say?
Wasn't it on the same engine?
Yeah, it was a very heavily modified Quake engine.
Alright.
But in the end, like, it still has a lot of the same quirks as the Quake engine.
The weird, almost like inbreeding kind of way that all of these games and engines
Inbreeding.
kind of
Sorry.
work is just really interesting to me, because it's like it kind of blows my mind that Valve just was able to use its engine for Quake on Half-Life, and then it kind of blew my mind because I don't know a ton about 90s PC gaming or anything, but the fact that the Unreal Engine is named that way because it originally was the engine for the game Unreal blew my mind when I was like, wait, what? That's a thing.
Was it Unreal or Unreal Tournament or what?
So there was Unreal, which was a single-player game, and then Unreal Tournament was a sequel which had multiplayer.
Okay.
Yeah, Unreal Tournament was specifically made to be a Quake killer. Like, it was trying to be Quake's Online, but better.
I see.
I have no idea if that's true. I haven't touched it.
I've never played it either. I just sort of know it by reputation because of the Unreal Engine.
I didn't know about it at all because especially during that time, I hid in my Nintendo hole pretty much exclusively.
That all came about during that era where PC gaming was still pretty separate from console gaming. So if you were console kids like us, you probably didn't know much about it.
Yeah, I feel like the crossover didn't really start happening until like the mid-late 2000s. Like Xbox 360 is when I start really remembering console games getting PC ports and PC games getting...
Well, that was when digital distribution started becoming much more popular.
Yeah, PC tech caught up with console tech and started overtaking it. And then the push for standardization came, which is why the PS4 and Xbox One are so goddamn similar to each other. Other than that, though... I'm trying to think of the first time I encountered Half-Life, because it wasn't at my own house, I can tell you that. I was at someone's house, maybe a cousin's...
One day, John Freeman and Office.
And they had PC games. One of them, I think, was the original Half-Life. Another was this pirate game. But the only thing that I can distinctly remember about it was someone I can only imagine was a seaside prostitute making a joke about playing Crow in the Hole.
Was it Monkey
I
Island?
I don't know the title.
Yeah, Monkey Island
I
is
just
the
know
first
it was
thing that came to my
I just
mind.
know it was a 3D, vaguely PS2-ish graphics level pirate game.
Then it probably was not Monkey Island then, because Monkey Island
wasn't
was like
one of the Monkey
classic
Island games 3D?
I don't think any of the good ones were.
The good ones.
I don't know much about that franchise either, though. So
All I know about Monkey Island is that I still want a T-shirt that says "I beat the Swordmaster."
If anyone actually does know the title of the pirate game I just mentioned, based on the one line of dialogue that I just mentioned, by all means tweet me and tell me what it is, because I've always had a morbid curiosity about that game.
I think the first thing I remember about hearing about Half-Life is when the Orange Box came out, which was like 2007 or 8.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I believe 2007.
Yeah, because I remember seeing reviews about it all the time, because that was kind of when I first discovered
That was
internet video reviews.
That was a goddamn genius way for Valve to make a push into the console market, I'm gonna say. Where they...
The Orange Box, yeah.
Where they just, packaged together Half-Life 2, the DLC episodes, and... what? Portal as well.
Portal and Team
and
Fortress.
And Team Fortress.
Yeah, Portal
so,
TF2.
A big, nice, fleshed out package made up of one big game and several smaller projects, That was a value package. I admire
it also helped that Portal ended up being one of the most influential games of all time.
Yeah, and
as well,
it's so weird that most
Whoa, big
people
boy.
ran into it not as its own standalone project, but as basically an extra feature in a package where the main event was Half-Life 2.
Or 2 depending on your taste.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because people are still playing Team Fortress 2.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people
I
are
streamed
still
some of
waiting
it the
for
other day.
next Half-Life chapter.
God, don't remind me. I'm never gonna get it.
Yeah, we were talking about this. I don't remember when, but it was sometime recently where it's been so long that the NDAs on Half-Life 3 wore off, and there's like a script. Oh, we were talking about it during the charity marathon. That's it.
The writer for the Half-Life series posted. He called it Epistle 3 instead of Episode 3, and it was just a a quote fanfic about an early script for Half-Life Episode 3.
Oh, okay.
And it was good. I read it. I thought it was, like, it would have been a decent ending for the Half-Life episodes, but yeah, that's really the gist of it. Is
You see,
they changed all of the characters so that they could get around the NDA, and was like,
Okay.
all right, it's just a fan fiction, guys. But
That-
it was the original writer
was
that
it the
posted
writer
it.
just getting frustrated with not being able to release the final
Yeah,
chapter?
because the writer left Valve, I think about a year before it went up. But he's recently come back to Valve, so I don't know what they're doing with that.
The issue with that kind of thing, though, is that once you put those ideas out there in another form, be it a side thing or a fan fiction or whatever, those ideas probably can't be used for the actual product anymore, can they?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
It depends on exactly how it happened.
yeah, because there was a point
'Cause-
during Half-Life 3's development, back when it was a thing, where they just decided, all right, this is going to be a full game, not just an episode. And so people are thinking that what they did post was back when the idea was it was going to just be a small episode and not a full game.
right.
Whoa.
I mean, it's also a thing that extends further back. Like, you can't. I mean, comic writers will tell you all the time, don't send them pitch ideas for
They
like
can't
plot
go with
lines or
them.
character stuff because they can't legally use them at that point, even if
Oh,
they're
really?
good. So it may just be a thing where that changes if you actually, if, like, say the company actually hired them or something
Yeah.
to do it. But you can't send like, oh, I had this great idea for the Scion comic. I'm going to message Ian Flynn about it, and it could be like the best thing ever. But since you technically did it that way, Ian Flynn can't use it.
Huh.
They would have to hire you, and
To
you
write
would
it,
have
yeah.
to write it. Yes.
Interesting.
It has to deal with just how the law works.
Yeah, I know that that's true for even some game design. This is more of a tabletop trading card game kind of thing. But if you were to send like people working on Magic the Gathering or the Yu-Gi-Oh, if you were to send them a card idea, they could not use that card idea if you sent it.
I think the
to them.
worst possible outcome of that situation, though, would be if someone else thought of it, someone else on their team thought of it at first, but now you've sent them the idea and they can't use it.
Oh, gross. Yeah, that would have been awful.
So,
Yeah, look, guys, I invented Blue Eyes Black Dragon. Oh, shit, now we have to take that out of the file. Damn it.
well,
Copyright tangents and more in the next part of Doom Eternal.
we're not going to talk about any of that in the next part.
Probably not, no.